What's up, guys, and welcome back. This is the first time that we are doing a podcast on the Fit Coach USA YouTube channel. I am actually interviewing AJ from the Parkour Journal. I don't know if you've seen anything from this guy, but the guy is off the chain. Cool thing about this guy is that he says that parkour actually played a huge role on his path to Christ. And I'm telling you, I did this interview with him for my podcast, and it is off the chain. Some of the stuff he is saying is just so powerful, especially concerning fear and, his journey away from Christ and now back to Christ. It is just going to bless you. So get excited, put your seatbelt on, and let's get right into it. All right, guys, I am here with pretty much a superhero. This guy literally leaps tall buildings in a single bound. So I'm excited to bring him to the table and to talk to him a little bit about his life and how he got into the sport of parkour, right? And not just like jumping on a curb and saying parkour, parkour, like the actual thing, right? So AJ, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? It's good to see you.
It is very good to see you, speak with you. I've actually been following you on Instagram for a couple of years now, and
Really?
I had my little season of parkouring, man. Just learning little things like, kongs and just trying to get over walls, different types of ways.
Nice.
Precision jumping, wall runs. It's been fun. I was in a little calisthenic phase of working on my planches, but at the same time, I'm watching guys like you jump from one thing to the next and land perfectly, but very sketchily. And I was like, I want to do that, man.
Dude, that's awesome.
I came to realize that some of that stuff is for me and some of it is not. So it's not for everybody, but
understood.
It's so fun. I think one of the cool things about you and guys like you, guys and girls like you, is that you get to take just everything and make it your jungle gym. Like, you get to make it your playground. Wherever you are, you're looking at, and even the time that I spent in it, I was looking at ledges and being like, ooh, what could I do with that? And ooh, look at this, pole to this little peg, what could I do with that? So very exciting stuff, very cool stuff. I want to get into basically how you got into parkour, but first I want to know a little bit about you. I want everybody to hear about you. So tell me, where are you from, man?
I'm from Huntsville, Texas. It's a really small country town. It's about an hour and 15 outside of downtown Houston. And
okay.
I grew up kind of in the country, 30 minutes outside of that town. So we would have to drive to town for groceries and stuff.
Oh my goodness. So a lot of free time, right? You got to figure it out. A lot of imagination.
Yeah. Me and my brother, we would I remember there's different ponds on our land. We lived on 24 acres. So we would run out to the creek. Our dad had built us a tree house. It was really fun.
Nice.
It was a good time.
Excellent. Okay, cool. Family in town. Where you're at now, are you surrounded by community?
I'm surrounded by my family. Yeah. I live with my fiance, and then me and my brother are really close.
Cool.
And me and my brother-in-law and my sister, and then we all live really close. My little sister still lives down in Huntsville, which is 40 minutes away.
Okay.
So
it's good to see him and stuff. When you have a date for your wedding, man? Where we got to make plans.
We were thinking this year, but then coronavirus happened.
Yeah,
and
about that.
Everyone's afraid. So we're kind of waiting until next year, I guess. I want to do it in November though, because the weather's really good in Texas at that time.
Right.
It's not, scalding.
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. So let's get into it. How did you get into the sport of parkour? Tell me about it.
It's interesting, right? Because in a small town, it didn't make sense to get into parkour. Me and one of my friends were the only people in the town doing parkour. His name was Peter.
Pioneers.
Or is Peter? Yeah. We saw a YouTube video. There's a really popular. Yeah, right. It's just a YouTube video.
Yep.
It's a very simple answer. We saw a team called 3 Run in the UK, and they were doing all these stunts for movies and different TV shows, and I saw a video of them, and then just kind of fell into the, because as a kid you're always trying to find out what your thing is.
Right.
So it's like you're either getting into music or different forms of photography, different little hobbies here and there. Some kids just love video games. Like my brother loves video games.
Okay.
He runs a podcast for video games.
Wow.
And I had tried multiple things. I had just gotten out of skateboarding. So it's really interesting. We're always finding a culture to dive ourselves into.
Yeah.
Parkour kind of stuck.
Wow. How old were you when you got into it?
I was 15, just about to be 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're a pioneer starting this thing off, like just trying little tricks. What was like one of your first things that you like started working on? Was it just like a mixture, or was there like something that you like really wanted to be good at?
Probably a Kong vault. Yeah.
Okay.
If I could think back,
That's
I think it was a Kong
move.
vault. Yeah. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
So whenever you're like first starting, it's like, man, just to be able to put your hands on it and throw your legs in between and land on the other side. You don't think about any form really at first, which is cool because there is something very special about that. So thinking back, it was cool just to see what they were doing on YouTube and try and mimic it. And then you come to realize, oh my goodness, there's this whole language behind it and culture that surrounds it too. It was interesting there weren't many tutorials at the time either. So you're just watching what they're doing and then trying it. And the names are kind of, developing as it's going. Right. So it's pretty cool.
Like, okay, that's what that is. And guys, those who are listening, I want to encourage you all to take a moment, after the show and YouTube Kong Vault and, just parkour, kind of take a look at it. If you haven't really taken a chance to like look at what these guys and girls are doing, it is really, really impressive. So you've got to, I want you to watch that and then take a moment and think to yourself, AJ was thinking, I want to do that, right? Because some of you are going to watch that and go, what?
Yeah.
He's thinking, I want to try that.
I just exited like the skateboarding community in terms of like my day-to-day hobby.
Okay. So
it was almost just like a refresh of something urban. It felt very fulfilling. Yeah.
So we're going somewhere with this. There's definitely something that I want to cover with you, but I want to ask you this. What is the scariest thing you have done? Because I think when we think of parkour, we think of doing really, really sketchy, death-defying stunts. What is the scariest thing that you have ever done as a parkour athlete?
I think probably descents. So descents are where you're hanging from a parking garage and then you're dropping from level to level. I got into those whenever I was 24, about to be 25. And I kind of dedicated a whole year to those, just taking notes on them and spending time on different projects. So I would find a parking garage on Google Earth and then I would drive to it, check it out, see if it was doable, and then project it similar to like a rock climbing project.
Wow. So I think you said something that kind of lets people inside the mind of a parkour athlete, because I think sometimes people will look on folks that are doing parkour and even skating and stuff like that, and they'll say, like they're, they need to find something like constructive to do. And it's like, you don't realize how much like estimation and, like thought process and consistency, trial and error, like perseverance. There's so much that goes into it. Like on the outside, it just looks like somebody's jumping from this or dropping, like, wow, that's crazy. He's being reckless. Like, look at him, but it's like, no, like he's practiced this. And I actually said that to a guy at that, I mentioned I was at a birthday party talking about our interview today. And I was telling him, like, it looks to so many folks like he is just being reckless, but like he's not just, I'm going to go to this tall parking garage and just drop down the side. Like he tried it at a smaller level. He thought about it, like scoped it out, like, meditated on it a bit. And, now you're seeing the end product of that. But now you're telling us he spent a year working on that,
Yeah. So the biggest one I ever did, I spent 8 months on. There's a really popular street called 6th Street. It's where all the bars are and all that stuff. But I would go and I would practice from the second to the first story, and I would just take notes. And then, it took 8 months. So, I mean, it's a full project. There's it does seem like that. And I appreciate that you mention it like that, because that's very, I could tell you've informed yourself on parkour just from you saying that. There's no just going and getting on a roof and doing a roof gap. It's like trying to make a 3-pointer right away. It's going to be a little harder than if you do it for months and months and months.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's important for people to hear that as well too. So let me ask you this, because you told me something that really stuck with me, and I was already interested in you and what you've got going on. I saw you make a post actually of you doing a descent from a 5-story garage parking lot, and you posted it with a scripture from John, and so I was like, wow, this is really, really great. You said that parkour actually played a role on your path to Christ.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I want to hear, and I want everyone to hear about that.
Well, I guess I should start from a little further back than before parkour. Whenever I was a kid, I was raised Christian, and you always get a weird view of what a religion is whenever you're a kid, right? Because it's very, you hear it in the form of which another person is telling you how to believe in it.
Yep.
Exactly. And I feel like God doesn't speak like that. Mm-hmm. So whenever you're going through life, oftentimes we get pushed away from religion based on how it's presented to us. And as a kid, you see the rules as a bad thing, right? And you see all these things to do as a bad thing. And my dad passed away whenever I was 12. Wow. And that kind of steered me away from religion entirely, because he was a Muslim. So it was kind of, I didn't want to believe in something that went against him, but I also didn't want to believe in what he believed in. So I just didn't believe in anything. So I actually exited religion for like a good 12 years. Never thought about it, completely lived my life to how I felt in the moment, rather than very autonomously, nothing to guide my life with, which I think in the long run, now I see Christ as the ultimate thing to guide my life by. I mean, he's perfect. Yeah. It's a really good way to live your life. And as a kid, I didn't see the importance in that. I had lost my dad, so I didn't have that fatherly figure. And I had to replace that fatherly figure with culture. And as culture went by, it's very volatile to try and live your life by culture, because you're always trying to uphold to a standard.
Absolutely. It's always changing on you.
Yeah, right. And if your culture is like a certain musician or a certain sport, even parkour, I like to say, like, I don't live for the culture of parkour anymore. I live in service to Christ, and through that I do parkour. Right. And just little things like that are huge, because but yeah, so the thing that actually ultimately led to Christianity was descents. So I was doing descents, and yeah, very specifically, parkour led me to descents, which is a move through parkour. And descents is just getting down from one object to another, just like getting over an obstacle with a vault. Right. But a descent that I specifically did was called cat drops, where you're actually dropping down the parking garages.
Okay, that's what I saw.
Yes. Okay. And as I took them higher and higher, I think what I was trying to do was find a mental state. Like, I was trying to, during this time, I was looking at a lot of religions, because I had been open up to spirituality again, specifically through a book called The Alchemist, which is ironic because the main character was a Christian. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at all these religions, and I haven't knocked down to a couple, of which like I am kind of looking into the most. And I read a book that was given to me by a really good friend named Johnny. Okay. And it was called Mere Christianity.
Yes, there you go.
I'm sure you, yeah. And and then it led me, and it led me all the way through to another book called Surprised by Joy. And C.S. Lewis has a quote in it which changed kind of everything, like in terms of my Christianity. And the quote specifically, it says, I had hoped that the heart of reality might be of such a kind that we could best describe it as a place. Instead, I found it to be a person. Oof, and
that's so good.
Yeah, right. So I was trying to describe the heart of my reality as like a specific place. I wanted to feel a certain way, and descents were making me feel that way. Okay. So in a sense, you're getting this high off of hanging from something really high, putting your life on the line. and dropping from level to level. And in all reality, once I turned my life over to Jesus, it made me realize I don't have to put my body through that kind of somewhat suffering in a sense, like if you're again like living for that culture, like I don't do necessarily really high descents anymore. I found Christ through that, and I realized I can live my life for him and not for that move specifically or anything really specifically. And I think that's a huge thing happening right now in cultures, is people are living for culture or whatever they're devoted into rather than through Christ, and then letting Christ shine through whatever you do after that.
Absolutely. That's so powerful. I mean, you think about folks that like not only, seek thrill to fulfill that void, I guess we could say, or to try to fill that space, but folks that look to substances, folks that look to other people, it's so easy to be given to these other things in order to fill a space that only he can fill. And I think that's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's actually, it's a pretty deep illustration. You say that you found Christ through your descent, and it's like, as you made yourself low, it's like he was lifted higher,
Yes. Yeah. They humbled me a lot, because you do parkour and we all have egos in some sense. And I had really topped out my highest one, and I still just didn't feel fulfilled. I was like, at what length can this fulfill me? And ultimately I had done one, the biggest one I'd ever done in Austin. And it just still, I remember at the top, like you're in a very specific place again, like whenever you're doing this. I remember asking God on that one. I was open to God being a real person at the time. And that was the last like one that I did that was that high kind of thing. So, and I remember asking like, hey, like if I do this and I do this successfully, I'll give it a real try. And I remember like a week after I did that descent, I bought a New Testament and just kind of started reading more and more. And after that, you find yourself, I actually started with the Old Testament, but then I started reading the Gospels, and I never read the Gospels before. So it's so crazy. Like I wish I'd been introduced to the Gospels so early on. Cause you grow up and the main stories is like Moses, and Joseph. And I had never even been introduced to the book of Daniel, which that book is drastically changing my life right now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you talk about this place, right? And I think for some of us, it's going right over our head. You say you're in this place. What is that place for you? You're at the top of a descent. You're about to do something very risky, something that you've meditated on, thought out, planned out, tried again, maybe failed at before. What is that place that you go to?
I've explained it before to someone. It's like 95 and 5, right? So this is kind of where I found my belief in God, and then eventually in Christ. Is with everything you can learn almost 100% of anything. But then there's always the experience aspect of it too. So I studied that descent 95% of the way. I mean, I did each level up to the last level. I cleaned off each ledge. I got the camera angle ready. Everything was done except for me to just be able to do it. And I drilled it enough to the point that my fear level was about as maximum as it could get. I was about as comfortable as it could get, but there's still that 5% that you have to leave to something, like get on a flight. 99% of them go right. Sometimes, the plane crashes.
Right. It's real.
And to ignite, that's the place you're in, is you're like, okay, I have to accept that no matter how prepped I am for this, there could be one little thing that goes wrong. And to accept that, then you can hang over the ledge and do it more comfortably, because you with your individual free will know that you could hurt yourself really bad or die or whatever it may be. And then you go for it. And so now I look at that 5% as faith. Whereas at first it was just, well, here it goes.
That's chance, man.
Yeah. It went from chance to faith really quick.
Wow. That's cool. Okay. Thank you for helping us to understand that. I think that's crucial, because a lot of us face that, maybe not at the top of a descent, but maybe before we enter into a relationship or before we sign off on a house or whatever it is, we have to quit our job to start another one. Like you know, we all are faced with that place, and it's like, look, you can meditate on it and set it all up right, but at some point you just have to have faith, man. You know.
Yeah, it really does come down to sometimes that if you sometimes we don't even take chances in our life because we're just not willing to dive that far into our belief or our faith in it.
Wow.
Like, you know, and I really think that's important, because if you don't accept that 5%, you never really get to, I feel like it's the ultimate way to experience life at the same time. If I hadn't have done that, or I'd found myself in that position, I think I wouldn't have turned my life over to Christ as soon as I did.
That's powerful. Are you guys hearing what he's saying? This is very, very powerful. I really appreciate. I mean, you got so much insight already just from, you know, how long have you been where you are now? Like the AJ we're talking to, has it been a few years?
Man, it's so crazy that you say that, because it really does feel like I'm a different person. I feel like
sounds like you are.
Yeah, it feels like I came home in a sense. It's like you do feel gone for a long time, and that I know that doesn't sound. Someone who's not a Christian may hear that and just think it's not what I'm saying. But you know, if you can accept what I'm saying before I'm a Christian, accept it now. That I feel like I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm not a slave to any culture, to anything specific. I don't kneel to anything else in terms of my energy and my goals and my life. It's all going to God, and then through that I can truly be myself.
Wow.
Yeah, probably a year, not even a year yet. You know, like even after that descent, it was still a process to get to the place where I feel so blindly in love with the Gospels and Christ.
I'm like trying to conceal a shout because I'm so excited for you, man.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
thanks,
like
man.
we read the story of the prodigal. You know, we actually just talked about that at my church on Sunday, and you're like, man, like when you said I feel like I'm home, I'm like, oh man, don't do it to me, man. Like my heart can't take it. I'm on camera.
Dude, it's truly what it feels like. You feel like you don't have to be in any place anymore. That's how it feels. It's like you're everywhere. It's home. Because then you start, not, you know, to go off too long on this, but I feel like then you start seeing everything. God is in everything, yes. Right? Like if you're out at night and like you can start seeing God in everything, you know, because He made everything.
Yeah.
So it just makes you feel home everywhere if you're not looking for a place, right? If you're looking for a place, you're going to find yourself needing to be at this Starbucks to study, or at this place to do this, or at this place to do this. But you can have this ultimate contentment if you know that your heart is always at home through Christ.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, we could go on for hours just with what you're talking about right there. That's so huge. I wanted to ask you this. This was a big question for me. One of the ones that got me most excited. Like, what has this taught you about the difference between, like, what, I'll just stick to one part. What has this taught you about fear?
I feel like
parkour.
I feel like fear is really, it's really misguided. Yeah. Okay. So for parkour, it's really misguided. Okay. Fear is like being given a lot of information at once. That's another way to describe fear, right? Because it's like looking at something crazy that someone has done, or it's like taking your driver's test whenever you're 16. It is scary in your mind, but in all reality, there's no physicality of fear. It's just the way you're perceiving it. Yes. It's like being, my friend Juan described it as like, imagine being shown the sun right away. Like it'd be a little blinding, you know, looking straight at the sun. That's a lot. But if you can put a shade over it, if there's some clouds kind of surrounding it, then you can see it better and slowly understand what you're looking at. So if you look at a jump, like a 10-foot jump, at first it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, it's just like, absolutely not. Yeah. But if someone shows you the proper technique and how to do a 1-foot jump, and then they give you some strengthening exercises, then you realize that fear is just a a process that hasn't been broken down yet. So you're looking at 100% of the goal without actually seeing the steps there. It's like trying to like perceive a bachelor's degree without breaking it into 4 years, multiple semesters, 3 hours per class. You know what I mean? It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, how am I supposed to learn all of that?
Absolutely.
And I feel like we do that all the time. And we label and we put away. We label, put away. So I think fear oftentimes guides us to not live our lives fully, right? And I say that like I said that like it was more complex than it had to be, but it's true, because then we go, well, I'll never go skydiving because, I'm going to not break it down to what it truly is. So I'm going to label it as, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it behind me.
Yeah.
Or I'm never going to, ask that girl on a date, whenever you're in your early 20s. And, if I had never asked my fiance on a date and had broken that, and I was just like, no, and I put a boundary there, and then I labeled it and put it away, she wouldn't be my fiance today.
Yeah,
It's like, breaking fears is the utmost important thing that we can do, because you shouldn't fear anything but God anyways. So if you can just constantly be breaking fears, then you're just proving more and more to yourself who you truly fear and who you truly kneel to the whole time.
Good. So good. I have a friend that we were having a conversation, and he said, fear has a way of masking itself as wisdom. And I think you'd agree with that. Like all of a sudden it's like, oh man, when you're scared to do something, all of a sudden those people get the smartest. They're the most educated about that particular thing. Like, oh yeah, well, studies show this, and I shouldn't do this because of that.
Yeah.
That like, just like you said, we've got all these different reasons as to why. And it's funny, it's like we do the opposite. Like we fear something, and instead of breaking it down and figuring out the steps, the logical and practical steps in order to complete that thing, we label it and put it away. When instead, really what we end up doing is we find a million different reasons as to why we shouldn't do it to support the label we gave it, and then we store it away with that thing.
Exactly.
So then even when you go back to pull it back out, it comes out with all these different labels that you added to it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's why I wasn't going to do that. It's like you should ever.
Speaking.
That's so good.
That is, to me, that is truth. Like whenever you told me earlier, you were working at any time, and then you got to a point where you could run your own business. You looked at any time more than the label that culture gave any time. You saw it as multiple avenues of learning different things, overcoming certain things. And then from that, now you started your own business, where someone will always look at any time and just say, that's just any time, and put it away, where you found treasures in it. And you found, things that God wanted you to learn, and things that are going to overall help you and guide you.
Wow, that's really powerful. I think of Ravi Zacharias. He said, you can look into the eyes of a tiger and see fear, or you can look into the eyes of the tiger and see beauty. I think that definitely relates to what we're talking about right here. I want to finish off with one question in this kind of section, and then I'm going to hit you with like a bunch of questions that you're not expecting. And it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Last question I'm going to ask you in this section is, what would you tell the 10-year ago version of yourself? Like if you could. What would you tell younger AJ 10 years ago? Would you slap him, shake him, and tell him to love Jesus? Like what would you do? What would you say?
Honestly, I don't think there's anything that I could have said. Okay. I think I was on a path to turn to Christ at 25 the whole time. I don't think there's anything I could have said. Yeah. I would have showed him something rather than told him something. I would be like, can you believe you're going to do this by 24 or 25, like for your own sake, for your soul and your mind. And maybe something like that, maybe something that would have inspired me sooner. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You turned that one around. Most of the time people always have something they would have said. You're like, you know what? I wouldn't say anything to him. I would have just showed him something.
I don't think I could have, man. I wouldn't have listened. What's funny is the guy who gave me Mere Christianity, I give him a lot of thanks to my finding Christ. The guy who gave me Mere Christianity, I put that in my car at 18, and it's the same Mere Christianity I pulled out of my car to read whenever I turned 25. So it just sat there. Yeah, there's nothing I could have showed myself. I found it when AJ wanted to find it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and we believe that, and I think we should use it more, that concept of like, we just spread the seed. Maybe you're spreading the seed, maybe you're watering, but God brings the increase. Like, it's up to him to turn somebody's heart towards him and to reveal these mysteries, and to say it's not our responsibility to save people. All that guy did was plant a seed, and it just so happened to take 8 years or however long it took to really
it was
sprout.
I had bought another car, and I pulled that book out and put it in my next car. And I was like, I'll get around to it one of these days. And it was just so funny, like, how that works. And I think you're right. I think there are visions, and I think that there's a language of the world, like signs that people don't read. And then whenever they happen, or whenever you come to Christ and start seeing the world in such a language, that you do turn around and you're like, oh, wow, like God's been striking the whole time. And you're just kind of dodging and missing out of fear and out of not wanting to open up to certain things. And it's so funny how it all comes back around whenever you turn around and you do accept your life to Christ. You're like, wow, he was there the whole time. Like, there's not a second that he wasn't, now that I see it from this side of the room.
Wow. That's really cool, man. All right. I'm going to hit you with the speed round. Are you ready for this? Go ahead.
Yeah, let's go.
Ahead and stretch your legs. Get ready for this.
I am.
I'm just going to throw random things that come to my mind at you. Haven't written down a thing. Okay.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Let's go.
Power Rangers or Ninja Turtles?
Power Rangers.
Ooh. Okay. Cabin or beach house?
Right now, beach house.
Let's see. Skydive or parasail?
Ooh, skydive. I haven't got to yet. That sounds great.
You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you want to get married in the city, or do you want to get married in the country?
Oh, in the country. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to have a pickup truck there somewhere?
Hopefully. That would be great. I want to have a truck one day. Right now I drive a Toyota RAV4. I would love to get a Ford one day. Dude, that'd be cool.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen for you. All right. I'll finish you off with this one, man. Love Jesus or live healthy?
Oh, love Jesus.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good.
Through that, you will live healthy. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Okay. You picked it up. I was going to get you, man. Love Jesus.
Yeah.
Love Jesus, live healthy. The name of the podcast, Love Jesus, Live Healthy. They go hand in hand.
Man.
But you're living that out, man. So you answered that question before I even asked it. AJ, I would say it's a pleasure to talk with you, but I believe it did more than just please us. I think it taught us something. It helped us in so many ways. And I hope that you guys, the listeners, are able to take what he said and maybe you listen to this episode again and write down some stuff, because some of the things that you shared with us, only being really into this thing a year, are so powerful and so insightful. I really see him moving in your life. And I'm glad that we've started this relationship together. We're supposed to make these connections, and I think that I can help you, you can help me. That's how this thing is supposed to work. So I'm praying that this relationship continues on and that we continue to grow in Christ together. AJ, I'm so thankful for you, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me on too. And thank you for even watching my Instagram and stuff like that. That tells me that my message is getting across. That means the world.
Absolutely. And how can people find you, man?
On Instagram, the Parkour Journal, and then Believe, Commit, Achieve is the new gym we just opened, the Parkour and Taekwondo gym.
Oh my goodness! If I ever end up in Texas, I'm coming, and you're gonna teach me.
Yeah, man, come on by. We'll teach you, dude. Come in for free. We'll teach you a class. We'll play around at open gym. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh, it'll be the best time ever. All right. Well, man, have an awesome day. It's getting ready to be fall, so I hope you're excited. What's your favorite holiday coming up, man?
I've never really had one. Yeah, I guess we didn't do holiday. Maybe Thanksgiving or maybe Christmas.
I'm about to say, you're into fitness, so you probably like to eat. So I'm going to say Thanksgiving.
Yep, that's how you know we both are in the fitness. Food comes real quick.
There you go,
I love food.
There you go, man. Well, blessings, man, and we'll hear from you again soon.
Awesome, brother.
All right, brother.
Later.
Later, man.